There will likely be hundreds, even thousands of YouTube videos posted this week alone telling you how to reinvent yourself in the next 90 days, how to become the best version of yourself, how to achieve your goals, how to gain momentum in the next 90 days because the year is ending. And a lot of them will tell you about things like creating a 45-step morning routine with avocado toast and waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym and all of these aesthetic routines and things. I am not going to talk about any of that today. Today, I'm going to tell you the single most important thing you need to focus on to reinvent yourself in the next 90 days. Just one thing. And I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why that's the most important thing you should prioritize in the last few months of the year. The number one thing you need to focus on in the next 3 months is your purpose and your passion projects. And before I give you the 5 reasons why it's important, let me explain what I mean by purpose. We were all put here on this earth for a reason, right? God created us all for a reason. We all have a deep desire to do something meaningful and impactful and to make something of our lives. And even if you're not clear on what that is 100%, there are certain passion projects that you have been thinking of doing and trying and things you want to start, things that would really bring you joy, things that would actually make you feel like you're making a difference, or it's something that you would actually love to do because it aligns with your strengths and things that you really love. So that's what I mean by purpose, passion projects. What did God put you here for? What is that one thing you feel like this is what I really need to do with my life? And if you're not clear, what are the passion projects in the meantime that you have a strong desire to do that you can start doing right now? Let me tell you 5 reasons why this is what you should prioritize above all of the other aesthetic things and glowing up and looking prettier and all of these other things. Okay, so the number one reason why you should prioritize your purpose and passion projects in the next 3 months is because you spend over 30% of your time working every single day. At least 8 hours, for some people even more. That is a lot of time to be spending doing something that you absolutely hate, or something that drains you, something that makes you miserable, right? Most of your day is spent working, regardless of the aesthetic routines that you have or the nice lifestyle habits and other things that you have or things that it might afford you to be able to do. It's not going to change the fact that if you hate what you do for a living, if when your alarm goes off in the morning, you absolutely dread the day ahead of you because you feel so miserable at your job, all of the other aesthetic routines and lifestyle habits are not going to make you forget that. How out of alignment you feel, how unfulfilled you feel, how miserable you feel, how drained you feel. It's not going to make you forget the fact that you are now developing resentment towards yourself for staying in a position or a career or a role that you don't like because you're afraid of disappointing people, you're afraid of judgment, you're afraid of criticism, or maybe you invested too much time at this point. Or maybe you went to college like I did, you got your degree, you took a traditional path because that's what you were conditioned to do. And because of how much time you have invested in this path, because of all of the times and sacrifices made for you to get to the point you are today, you feel guilty and you feel like it would be selfish to pursue what you really want. It's not going to change the fact that you will start building resentment towards yourself and start feeling like a failure because you're allowing yourself to stay in a position that doesn't serve you, but rather drains you. And I'm speaking from experience. 30% of your time is spent doing that thing every single day. And no matter what you put around it to make your life more bearable, it's not going to change how you feel when you have to do that thing for at least 8 hours a day. It's not going to make you forget how unfulfilled you feel in that position, or it's not going to make you forget about all of the ideas and the passion projects that you want to start, that you've been meaning to start, that you have a burning desire to start, but you just haven't done it yet. It's not going to make you forget about all of these things. So the number one thing you should prioritize is these passion projects or things related to what you believe your purpose is. Put that above everything else that you plan to do in the next 3 months, because that is what is going to bring you the most fulfillment. So the faster you can transition into doing something that you absolutely love, regardless of what that is, and it doesn't have to be content creation or entrepreneurship or anything like that. It could be a better job, right? You could be in a job that you absolutely hate right now, and you feel like you would be better aligned in a different career path. So I'm not pointing to anything specifically. I'm trying to make you think of whatever it is that you want to do, that you feel called to do. The second reason why the number one thing you should prioritize in the next 3 months when you're thinking about reinventing yourself is your purpose and your passion projects, is because, like I said, the aesthetic routines and the temporary fixes will not make you forget how you feel at that job or at whatever you do that has you feeling so drained. Because here's the thing. I can tell you, when I had my Big Four consulting job, I had a lot of perks. They were paying for massages, they were paying for my Apple devices, my Apple Watch, my AirPods. I had all of these perks and I was getting flued out. And it literally could not make me forget the fact that I was feeling so drained at that job and so overworked. And if you know anything about Big Four consulting, you know that they will work you, child. You know that those hours are insane. And it's very fast paced, and not because it needs to be, but because there's a false sense of urgency because people are impatient, okay? I love the people that I work with, but the environment was fast paced for no reason. We are not saving lives. It's not brain surgery. I don't need to pick up a call at 10 p.m. Okay? When I was in that role, when they were paying for my massages and all of these things, I had some great perks. I could enjoy my life. I could be very flexible. I can do a lot of things. But no matter what I did, when that alarm went off and I had to log into work the next day, that feeling of resentment, that feeling of feeling like I was failing myself because I wasn't brave enough to do what I needed to do, that feeling of holding other people's expectations over my head, over my own personal satisfaction, wasn't going away. Me feeling stressed out on the job when I already didn't even want to be here wasn't going away. None of the other things that I did, none of the other things I did to balance my life made me forget how I felt being in a position where I was feeling so unaligned. Now, don't get me wrong. The habits, the lifestyle, the hobbies, all of these things, they're absolutely necessary because you need balance, right? You need to pour into other areas of your life. Absolutely. What I am saying is when you are focusing on reinventing yourself, if you want to actually change your life, you cannot just say, let me do all of these different habits and routines. Granted, yes, they would help you build a certain identity, but I'm saying if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not taking strides towards your purpose or your passion projects, what exactly are you doing all of these other things for? If you find yourself watching a bunch of YouTube videos on glowing up, becoming the best version of yourself and all of that, it's likely because you want a serious change in your life, right? And focusing on your physical appearance and all of these routines and all of these things when you are not paying any attention to the work that you do and prioritizing that and actually walking in your purpose, I'm telling you, they will feel good for a while. They will bring you a temporary feeling of balance, but it will not negate the fact that you are not doing what you really want to do, that you feel called to do. It will never make you forget how you feel. So do it, that's great, but the priority should be your purpose. The priority should be doing something that brings you fulfillment, that creates an impact, that makes you feel like your life makes a difference. Because 30% of your time every single day is going towards work. It might as well be towards work that you actually love. It could be a job, it could be content, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be something unconventional, something non-traditional, whatever it is, the aesthetic routines and the lifestyle will bring you temporary happiness, but it will not bring you the lasting fulfillment and accomplishment that you want to feel. These things will only come from your purpose. These things will come from doing the work that God has called you to do. The thing that you have on your heart to do, that you've been procrastinating on, that you know you need to start, that is what's actually going to give you the fulfillment that you need, okay? Not a physical glow up. Which brings me to my next point. The third thing is when you prioritize your purpose and your passion projects and you get clarity on what that is what is going to tell you who you need to become and the changes you need to make in your life. That is where you get your sense of direction from. And side note, if you don't know your purpose, if you don't have clarity on your passion projects and what you want to do, I have a free training that will help you figure that out. Just go to secludedthoughts.com/training. I will also leave the link in the description. But here is what I mean by that. I want you to really pay attention to this point. When God revealed my purpose to me, it wasn't like one day I just got 100% clarity on everything I was supposed to do. It was through my obedience in following the steps that He told me to take. The things that He told me to do, I was simply obedient in that, and I got clarity along the way. Okay? That's why I'm telling you, if you know you have a burning desire to do something, that is the first step. You don't need 100% clarity. Clarity will come with your obedience. When I was obedient and He told me the things I needed to do, when I had hesitations about those things, that is when I learned what I had to work on and who I had to become so that I can be obedient to what God is calling me to be. Please hear me. If you completely negate your purpose, if you completely neglect what God is calling you to do, your passion projects, the things you really want to start, the things you've had a burning desire to start, if you completely put that on the back burner and you just go about your day doing work that you don't like, and you think, okay, let me come up with the routines and the habits and the lifestyle and all of these things, if you prioritize that before you prioritize your purpose, you are likely going to find yourself scrolling on the internet, on TikTok, on social media, on YouTube, watching a bunch of content on how to glow up, change your physical appearance, and all of these things just to do it, and then realize it's not bringing you the fulfillment that you need. And you are essentially working towards creating an identity of somebody who is not what God called you to be. You will find yourself following trends, following what everybody else is doing, looking like everybody else, and not standing out with your unique gifts, with your unique strengths, with your unique looks. You're going to be fitting into some mold that society approves, that social media approves, and it's going to make you feel even more discontent because you put in all of this effort to change yourself physically and with all of these habits, and when they're not sticking, you're going to feel like a failure. But a failure for what? That is not what you're supposed to be doing. When I was obedient to God and I was doing the things that He called me to do, even before I had a podcast, I was blogging. When I was obedient to those passion projects and to those instructions, to those feelings that I kept getting to do this and do that, the things about those projects that made me hesitate were the things that I had to work on. That's when I learned who I had to become. I let my purpose that God, through God, okay, I let my God-given purpose show me who I needed to become. I didn't go online and let a bunch of people tell me to do these routines and change my appearance in that way, and that's who I needed to become, and that's how I would successfully reinvent myself. When God called me to create a podcast, I hesitated because I said, no, I'm not a public speaker. I don't feel confident going online. I don't feel confident doing all of these things. And then I realized these are the things that I had to work on. That is who I had to become. So while I was becoming the person I needed to be for my specific purpose, simply because I chose to be obedient. You see what I mean? When you prioritize your purpose and your passion projects, the areas you fall short in, that is who you need to become. That is what you need to improve. That is where you need to improve your life. And if you have to create different routines, like if you still want to work out and do all of these fun things, then you do it around the schedule that is necessary for your purpose, that is necessary for your passion projects. But you work in a way that is very intentional, that prioritizes your purpose and makes everything else fall in line with that, makes everything else align with that, right? That is how you successfully reinvent yourself. That is how I have successfully been reinventing myself, prioritizing my purpose, showing up in the ways that God has called me to show up. And wherever I fall short, that is what I work on. That is who I work on becoming. And then lastly, I prioritize the external things, the aesthetic things, because I have the most fulfillment and joy and peace in my heart right now because I am being obedient to the calling that God has called me to do. So now it feels easier and lighter to add in the different routines and all of these things because it's a bonus. But I did not prioritize that and changing my appearance and think that just looking prettier would make my life easier. That is the issue that I'm seeing with all of the content online. We are not prioritizing the right things, okay? If you have accomplished nothing in the first 9 months of the year, let buying the domain or creating the social media account or creating the LLC or making your first post or applying to that new job or applying to go back to school to get a certification or something, let that be the first step, the first thing that you do in the last 3 months of the year. Whatever it is you feel called to do, start making strides towards that because that is what is going to bring you the most fulfillment. Everything else is a bonus, and if you do it out of order, the new year is going to start and you're not going to feel any different or any better than you do right now. So that is the third thing. Your purpose will tell you who you need to become. It will tell you how you need to stretch yourself. It will tell you the areas that you need to grow in. It will tell you what is required of you. The growth you need, the person you need to become, once you prioritize your purpose, once you prioritize being obedient to God, once you prioritize listening to your intuition and doing those things that you know you've been meaning to do, but you've been putting them off for a long time, that is what will give you clarity on who you need to become, right? Do it in order. Now, my fourth point, and this is very important, okay? Because I know I talked about being at a job and doing work that you hate, but the fourth thing I need you to keep in mind is you need to change your mindset around your job. Do not leave your job. See it as your investor. Let me explain. This mic is not a cheap mic, okay? And you know what I bought, you know where I got the money to buy it? From the same job I was just telling you that I hated. You see what I mean? I'm not saying quit your job right now, cold turkey, and just go all in, especially if you do not have clarity. What you need to do is you need to see your job, your current work right now, as your investor. Okay? You are exchanging your time there for some money to invest in your business, to invest in your projects, to invest in your content, to invest in your skills, etc. If you want a better job because you feel like the one you are in right now is just to pay bills and it's out of alignment, but you know you need to get extra certifications or a higher education for the career that you really want, use the money that your investor, your job is giving you right now, and put it towards that degree. Put it towards that certification. If you want to create content, you can start with your phone, but if you want a camera, if you want nice equipment, if you want all of these extra props, use the money you get from your investor to invest in those things. Don't just see the job as a dreadful place that is miserable when you cannot do anything to change it right now because you were not born with privilege. You don't have a trust fund. You don't have the privileged life like that, okay? So you have to work to make your money. No shame if you do because my children will. But if you know you don't have these privileges, rather than complain about the job, even though it might make you miserable, you need to change your mindset and see the job as your investor, okay? While you are there, you exchange your time and your efforts for some money to invest in what you really want to do. Whatever passion projects, etc. you have, these things, the equipment, the things you need for that, the money you need for that is not just going to fall out from the sky, okay? Get the money from your investor and invest in that thing in the next 3 months. If you need equipment, if you need to create an LLC, if you need to hire people on Fiverr to help you with something, if you need to go back to school, use the money from your investor to do that. Change your mindset around the job instead of quitting cold turkey. See them as your investor and use that as seed money for your purpose and your passion projects and whatever you want to do. That is what is going to make it bearable. And the fifth and final thing that's very important, you need to get to the point where other people's opinions do not outweigh your lack of personal satisfaction. You need to get to the point where the possible or potential judgment and criticism or disappointment that people will feel from you choosing yourself first does not outweigh the misery that you feel being so out of alignment. It took me a very long time. I procrastinated for months to start my podcast simply because I took a traditional path working in finance and I felt like I couldn't put myself online because content is completely different. I went to school, I got my degree, I work in finance. This is just so out of what I'm used to doing. I don't want to look weird online. What if my coworkers find it, blah, blah, blah. And then I would go to work and I would feel so miserable. And then my alarm would go off and I would literally feel a sense of dread first thing in the day. I was feeling so miserable, so unfulfilled, so stressed out, so overworked, right? So burdened by how I felt at that job, mainly because of the fact that I knew there was something else I wanted to do, but I wasn't brave enough to do it. So I was allowing myself to be there. I knew how that made me feel, but yet I put other people's opinions over how that was making me feel. I would literally feel physical signs, health signs of stress, yet still I let what other people could think make me stay in that position, right? For years. I let the burden of thinking that people sacrificed too much for me to be in that position make me stay in a position that made me absolutely miserable. And I got to a place where it was starting to change me. I'm a very positive and optimistic person. And I remember getting to the point where I was so stressed out and fed up that I became the person where I would always complain about my job. I went from being the very positive friend to the friend who always had something negative to say about the job, the same job I was choosing to remain at. I became that negative person. And I don't know if I've shared this before. I think I have, but The day I decided to quit my first job that had me in a headlock because of all of the sacrifices, because of all of the time invested, because of all of the effort, because of all of the hard work I put in to get that job, to get to that point. The thing that brought me to quit was the fact that one day I had a very stressful, very busy day, back-to-back calls, like back to back all day from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because I was working on a big project. Calls all day nonstop, barely had a lunch break, right? And I was so stressed out. After the job, I remember after I finally logged off, I just sat on my couch and I curled into a ball because I was so stressed that I couldn't move. And then I literally got up, I went to my kitchen and I poured a full glass of wine. I had the bottle left over from New Year's Eve because I don't usually drink. I don't have alcohol in my apartment. I don't drink. Back then I was a social drinker where I would just have an occasional cocktail when I went out with my friends. But I never drank alone or anything like that. Like, it's just not something that I do personally. I got up, I poured myself a full glass of wine in my big wine glass, and I drank the whole thing in one gulp. And literally after I did it, it was like time stopped and I was like, I need to leave this job because it was now causing me to create vices and ways to cope with how miserable I was feeling that were very unhealthy for me, right? My personality was changing. I was seeing physical signs of stress in my body. And I was now, drinking alone by myself because of stress. It made me see why there were so many happy hours in corporate America, especially on Fridays after those busy weeks. I finally understood why people did it because the job was so stressful. And I never went because I said, I don't drink like that. I don't want to drink with my coworkers. I don't want to be that person. Drinking was never really that big to me. The fact that it made me pour myself a whole glass of wine, I was like, I need to stop right now before it gets worse. Because what am I going to do then? Because right now it's some wine, but what if later it gets worse and it's hard liquor? You see what I mean? I realized I had to stop it right in its track, right in the onset, right as that habits could have formed, because I was like, you know what, this is taking too much out of me. It was at that moment when I realized I was becoming a different person to cope with my situation that I said enough is enough. And I put in my 2 weeks the following week. You have to get to the point where other people's opinions do not have you in a chokehold, do not outweigh how miserable you feel. The only opinion you need to be concerned about is God's opinion, okay? Because He will never lead you astray. And sometimes people have good intentions, but because of their own limiting beliefs, because of the fact that they were not the ones called, but you are, they will not be able to see your vision. They will not be able to share in that. And they might want you to stay where you are because it is safe, because there's more security there, because they want to protect you. But you need to really take inventory of how you feel and decide if you want to live like that for another 5 years or 10 years or until you retire. You need to get to the point where other people's opinions do not outweigh how you feel about your life. You need to give yourself permission to pursue a path that is truly aligned with what you want. And like I said, I have a free training that you can watch to figure out how to do this, to figure out how I did this and how I helped one of my one-on-one clients with this. So if you're interested, go to secludedthoughts.com/training. I will also leave the link in the description. So just to recap, the number one thing you should prioritize when reinventing yourself in the last few months of the year is your purpose and your passion projects. Be brave, be courageous, have the courage to be disliked, to put yourself first, to put what God is calling you to do first, to finally listen to your intuition, to finally do the thing or the things that you really want to do, and stop trying to look to all of these other aesthetic things and external things to please other people and to get external validation and to cope with how you feel. Just do the thing that you really want to do. It will literally be the best decision that you will ever make in your entire life. I'm speaking from experience. Leave a comment below and let me know which point resonated with you the most. And don't forget to check out my free training if you need help with this. That is all I have to say today, and I will talk to you next Wednesday.